Welcome to the I Love Recruiting podcast with your host, Adam Roach.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the I Love Recruiting podcast. I am your host, Adam Roach, and today I have a special guest with me. For all of you real estate agents out there, for all of you that are growing and expanding, you're going to want to sit down and take some notes from this lady because she is going to teach you about a program that she has called 90 Days to Thrive for your real estate executive assistant. So I was introduced to Miss Kathleen Metcalf by one of my coaching clients, Mr. Jim Gilday. And Jim and I were talking about how to continue to expand the coaching world that we have and expand our reach and expand our arms and expand our value proposition. And he said, you have to speak to Kathleen. Guess what? I spoke to Kathleen. We had a great conversation, and now we are on the I Love Recruiting podcast. So Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. My thanks to Jim Gilday for introducing us. Jim has been a client for a long time, and so I just love how the network keeps growing.
Me too. You know, and for all of you that are listening, Jim Gilday is a realtor in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jim now for over almost 20 years. When I got into the recruiting space, he was in my first office. So really, really cool. So Kathleen, catch us up to speed. Who's Kathleen Metcalf all the way from Vermont?
So I now live in this little tiny town in Springfield, Vermont, where I think this is my 13th year.
Okay.
So Father's Day, I think, was my 13th anniversary. I spent 18 years in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And before that, I lived in New York City and Miami. And I grew up in New Jersey. And I was born in Canada of American parents. So I've definitely made a zigzag across the country and across the border. But my company is based on a need that I saw. And it is really a culmination of how my life's work has come together.
Okay.
So when I was in San Francisco, California, I became a real estate assistant, then a licensed assistant and an agent for the real estate listeners. And I had been away from my family for 25 years in my career and, you know, just living in the big city, doing the big city thing. And so this little voice said to me, I want to go home. And so in 2007, I moved to Vermont to be near my family and stayed.
Okay.
So in getting a job here in this little tiny town, it took me 4 months to find a job. It never taken me 4 months to find a job my whole life. And I ended up, you know, the universe lined up perfectly. And so I went to work for a real estate coach who lived remotely, who worked for a big coaching company, who coached 65 top producing agents all over North America every week. So wow. I heard her talk to all these top producers. And we were in an office suite together. I was across, you know, the room from her. And so I could hear the pattern of these issues where these top producers could not reach their goals if they did not have a great admin support team or assistant, and that they were not onboarded and trained properly. So I kept hearing the question, when are you going to hire your new admin and how are you going to get them trained and still get your prospecting done? And so I'm sitting across the room thinking, wow, I have got to be able to help this problem because I have a background in recruiting and training from the retail industry. I had been an assistant and been an agent. So there's got to be a way to fix this. So when I started to do some research, so this is like 2010, maybe I'm starting to do this research. I find Pro REA Staffing and Vanessa Rosenblum. She's the only one I can find. And so I figured there's plenty of room in the pool because when I did my research, there were 1.2 million real estate agents at the time. And at least 100,000 to 250,000 of the top agents, were the ones who had administrative support. They did over 25 deals, over 40 deals, depending on what part of the country they were in. And there was so little support structure to help them hire, onboard, train, and then retain talent.
Sure.
So I started my business really working for her. In fact, I saw her last weekend. She's retired now. That my business started with a 3-ring binder, standing with a headset, talking to her clients on her payroll at her request, in her laundry room because we worked out of her home, a suite in her home office. And so I just, stood in the laundry room and talked to them about and watched resumes and helped them interview. And, I just started to do it completely organically, which I know you can appreciate.
Sure. Absolutely. So that's an incredible start, incredible story. And before we go any deeper, I want to go back to this because I really liked what you said there. Number one, you zigzagged all over the country, which was fantastic. I love to hear that story, and I want to go back to that shortly. But I want to go back to what you said. You worked for a real estate coach, and you overheard patterns. You overheard the same thing over and over and over is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
So for all of our listeners out there, the point that I'm bringing up here is you're not alone, right? There are other people that are feeling your pain, and there are solutions to that. So why don't we dive into some of those patterns that you were hearing, and then you went on to go find solutions for those patterns, which is what you created, right? You created this coaching and training company for EA. So what were some of those patterns?
So the patterns I heard were the agents that wanted to reach the next level in their production, right? So they had gotten to the point where they were making money. They had consistency in their business, so they could become a business owner and then move on to becoming an employer. So they could then become a leader, right? So these are sort of the trajectory. So the patterns were that they wanted to do, let's use the number 75 deals. Okay. So I also speak in number of transactions. It is way more important in the formula for me than how much sales volume you do. Okay. Because if you sell $8 million houses, it doesn't take a lot of deals to hit 200. So if you're selling $120,000 houses, right? So from an operations administrative standpoint, the number of transactions is a big part of the formula. Okay. So if you want to get to this next level where you're either, doubling your business or, doing 25%, 50%, even more of your business, that all now starts to happen with systems. You have to have those systems. Well, most real estate agents are not good at that. And you're not supposed to get good at that. You're supposed to get good at recognizing that this is now what you need. Right. And now who is going to do that? And so the patterns were that they couldn't reach their goals. And then when the coach would get into why aren't you reaching your goals, some of those answers would be, I'm spending too much time in my paperwork. I'm working 12, 15, 20 hours a day. I'm working 6-7 days a week. I haven't had a day off in a month. I hired my nephew and, he won't come back from being a runner. He comes back with a beer, like whatever they've tried to do as a Band-Aid to get help is not it. Or they have a transaction coordinator, but now I'm getting more listings. Right. So if agents started out as a buyer's agent and now they're showing property and now they're working long hours, they figured out you can work 8 to 5 if you have listings, if you work it right.
So I want to go back to what you said there because that was really good and really powerful. So of all the real estate agents that I coach and all the real estate recruiters that I coach, literally north, south, east, and west of this nation that we live in, right. I want realtors to hear this and recruiters to hear this. You don't need to get good at the systems. No. Right? Correct. Because you're not smart enough to know these systems. Otherwise, you would have built them by now. What you need to do, and exactly what Kathleen is telling you, go find the leverage that knows how to do that, right? Right.
And when you're at this stage of your business too, there's really 2 camps of admin, if I can really generalize it. There are those that can build, and there are those that will follow and manage. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that the ones who follow and manage can't learn to rise and become, a director of operations and can't learn to build your systems. But you are going to need to buy the talent that knows how to build a checklist, select a CRM. In fact, Vanessa Rosenbaum at Pro RNA Staffing and I sometimes laugh when we present together because she'll tell agents that they should have their database set up when they hire their assistant. And I'll say, if you have cards in a box, we can just download your contacts out of your phone, we can work with it. You don't have to have it all set up. But there are admins who are sort of architects that will be able to build something. And then It is helpful if agents are reasonably compliant to follow systems, so they're not creating chaos inside their own business, but we'll work with it.
Exactly.
I do have, sort of as a sidestep, I do often, when I'm coaching admin, refer to agents as rare birds.
Okay.
Depending on the personality style of the
Mm-hmm.
agent you work with. Some of them are hummingbirds.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really fast, and they just zip in and zip out, and, you know, and then some of them are more like hawks, you know, and they're very big picture, and they're big visionary, and they can see the detail, but they don't really want to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and others are ground birds, where they're analytical and they want to know what's going on. So you can't try to change that bird, because
Can
that
we add
bird
one
has
more bird?
become that successful.
Can we add one more bird? The seagull, right? The seagull that comes in, just takes his shit all over everybody and flies away, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's leaders out there like that. Absolutely.
Yes. And we're not trying to change those people. What we're trying to do then is create systems that allow this bird to have its secret sauce and really be in its zone of genius. So particularly the hummingbird is frustrating to the admin, because they flit and move and they're very hard to capture. But you can't crush it. You can't hold it in your hand too tightly. You have to be able to talk to the hummingbird in small increments. Get what you need, let it go. Then have another 3 questions. Get what you need, let it go. Because that hummingbird has attracted all of these clients who love to work with it. This person knows the market. This person is great at negotiating. They smooth over difficult conversations with people, right? This is a special secret sauce. Now we have to build systems underneath it that allow this secret sauce to really fly. And this is how we're going to increase volume.
Right. Okay. So we're going to pause there for a second, because that was powerful. Everybody who is listening right now, and anyone that is either in the market for an admin or has an admin that needs to be coached, I want to reiterate what Kathleen just said. She coaches the admins on understanding who their team leader is. I don't think I've ever heard that. I've always heard that the coach of an admin teaches them systems, teaches them how to build, teaches them the process to make that person better. And I've never heard them say, hey, listen, you got to know what birds you're working for. Powerful stuff there. I like that. That's really, really good.
Yeah, because that is part of that formula of success. Because if we're trying to change the agents to be, you know, systematic and follow we can try, you know, and we can find systems that work. And yes, they are going to build the system, but then it is about creating versatility in the admin, because the agents have learned versatility to gain more clients.
Sure.
Gain versatility so they can work with the surgeon, the accountant, the contractor, right? And the social worker, like all these prototypes, you know, these stereotypes of different kinds of personality styles. Salespeople have learned to do that. Admin can be coached and trained on that kind of versatility to also have gratitude and appreciation for whatever it is that's special about this agent that has allowed them to become so successful.
So I want to dive into your 2 types of admins here. So for our team leaders, for our leaders of the teams, or the people that are actually looking for EAs right now, I want to go back into what you said. You've got a builder admin, and then you have those who will manage admin, right? If you wouldn't mind, dive into those 2 and also explain to the listeners, maybe they don't know what they're looking for if we're breaking those 2 up. How would you tell them, or how would you coach a team leader to say, hey, listen, this is what I think you need? Either one of those 2.
So if we evaluate the business in terms of, let's see, what kind of structure do you have at this point? Do you have a CRM? Do you have a database? Do you have checklists in your system? In the way you do business? Do you have a software that you need to use because your broker says, I need you to submit paperwork this way? Do you already have a way in which that you do business? You like to, you have a dialer. You like to send thank you notes after prospecting calls. Like, do you have things that you normally do? If you don't, you need a builder.
Yes. Love that.
If you have certain systems that will take you from, in our training program, we have what we call the business circle, and it's like a clock. It starts with leads, and then it moves around the clock throughout the process of running a real estate practice. And we teach the admin, this is how it flows. And so you need a system for every piece of the flow. So you need something for lead management, getting ready for appointments with buyers or sellers. Now we have listing contract. How are we going to launch it? How are we going to maintain it? Then what happens when we get offers? Now we're going to get through pending to closing. And then what are we going to do once deals close? And how are we going to get repeat and referral business? And so we're going to go around. And every piece of that has to have a system in order to keep having the business rise, both perhaps in terms of volume, but also in terms of service.
Sure.
So let's say you're comfortable doing 75 deals, and that's wonderful for you and your team, but now you want to keep competing. And so you need email campaigns and anniversary cards and, however you want to take it.
So basically the one that has zero and they're just winging their real estate business needs a builder.
Needs a builder.
So, right. And the one who has systems, the one that has some formal or some informal structure needs someone that can build, but also manage what's currently there.
Correct.
Excellent. Great.
Well, now we could dive into, if you want, how do you know that in a candidate?
Oh, please. Let's hear it.
So I am a big believer in transferable skills.
Okay.
They're candidates that have real estate experience. It's helpful to know what a listing is, what an escrow is, what a broker is. Like, it's helpful to know to know what MLS stands for. It's helpful to know those things. However, depending on the kind of training and education, a real estate assistant or I could just call admin is sort of generic title for anyone who's been in operations in real estate, then to be able to see what did they learn? Because sometimes you get better skills with people who have come out of a corporate environment or have been in a medical office, or they have worked in hospitality and they have been through setting up files, taking care of clients, being compliant to HIPAA laws in the medical field, of being able to balance having 5 ballrooms, all having parties, and they have to take care of the catering and the sales and what's going on. And so those are very transferable skills into real estate.
Yep.
If they've worked in a family entrepreneurial business where they had to do everything and there was no, that's not my job, that's also valuable. So there are ways in which to look at what did they learn, what was it like when they started the job, what was it like when they finished the job, and what were they responsible for. You can really track with people how those experiences, the skills they've developed or learned, is now applicable to what they're going to need to do inside this real estate agent's team or business. And in fact, Vanessa and I collaborated on a training course called Hire Lab, which is 3 modules. It sells for $549. It's on hire-lab.com. And we teach you how to do this. And we give you all the materials in order to follow that process so you can determine what is the job, how are you going to track them, how do you then evaluate them, what is your value proposition, and now how do you make sure you get the right match? Because having real estate experience is not necessarily the silver bullet.
Sure. So, I mean, incredible information here. What I want to do for all of our listeners is I want you to hear what Kathleen is saying for a few reasons. Number one, she's the coach, right? She knows exactly what she's doing as it relates to making sure that admin, making sure that EA of yours is moving in the right direction to build your business. She's partnered with Vanessa Rosenblum at Pro REA, which they actually go out and find the candidates. Is that correct?
They will do a full search if you want. We also have, they also have a la carte services, but yes, they will absolutely help you find and screen candidates for real estate admin.
Love that. And I know there's a ton of listeners right now that need your help and support. So this is incredible. So the Pro REA that is Vanessa's, and Kathleen works with Vanessa on this, they go out and find, and then when they find, they connect with you to be coached up so that you can coach them up and then make, as an example, myself, a team leader of a real estate team, more growth oriented, right?
Well, yes. And because we need that team leader, that lead agent, or that solo agent who's hiring their first admin, you have to keep making deals. And training and onboarding a new admin, particularly one who is not from the real estate industry, that is an investment of time. So you can't stop selling. You
Sure.
have to keep selling as the lead agent or the only agent. So
Mhm.
we've got to balance how much time are you going to spend onboarding and training, and how much are you going to offload that to the people who do that all the time. So
Right.
this is where Vanessa and I say to agents, don't be a for sale by owner. If this is not what you do, hire people who know how to do this.
Well, and the neat part about that, so let me ask you a question. What would you say to either the reluctant or the a little afraid individual, and I say that lovingly,
Yes.
who's looking to hire their first admin and maybe is a little afraid of their P&L, right? They're afraid of their expenses, or heck, you know what? We know
Yes.
that they don't always track that stuff, so they're going to wing those numbers anyway. What would you say to someone who is hiring their first admin and is maybe a little reluctant to throw them into coaching?
Excellent question. So you should have 3 months of payroll in the bank.
Okay.
And in terms of planning, you take your gross commission income, and the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right, by Gary Keller, suggests 11 to 13% of your gross commission income is what you can anticipate to pay for your support people.
Yep.
My experience is that number is a little narrow, depending on where you are on the growth cycle of your business.
Correct.
So I say between 10 and 20%. If you spend 20% on your assistant, that's usually because you bought the racehorse before the race. And you bought talent who's going to help you build. And then in, let's say, within a year, that number is going to drop to 15.
Right.
So you can anticipate that to have an admin who is going to be a free thinker, take initiative, stand up to your personality, be able to deal with confrontation, manage things. This is someone who earns $40,000 to $80,000 a year based on the market that you're in. This is not a $15 an hour person who has not worked before.
Right.
It's not who we're talking about. You can have those people on your team. But in terms of that, so that's in terms of sort of budgeting, in terms of those numbers. You can anticipate that it will take 3 to 6 months to see strong productivity from a new admin. They should be able to do the tasks in the first 90 days. But if you talk to admin who've been in position for some time, they'll tell you they really felt like they got their arms around it in their second year.
Sure.
In their first year, they were running as fast as they could.
They were, yeah,
Right.
trying to keep up. Sure.
So for someone who's on the fence about should I hire an admin, I'm nervous about that. Most high producing agents earn between $200 and $2,000 an hour making deals.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Their time being spent managing paperwork, inspection appointments, calling to say you had 3 showings last week, this is not $200 an hour work.
Right. That's very true. And again, I hope everyone heard that. So I have on my Adam R. Roach YouTube channel, which I'm going to put on the I Love Recruiting channel. I break down time value of money, right? I break down time value of money for the real estate agent so they can actually see their time value of money will increase when they hire an assistant. And gang, I want you to hear this next part. Not only will it increase when you hire the right assistant that takes workload off of you, when you get that assistant coached up, that's a massive leverage for you. Yes. And now your productivity goes even higher. Would you agree?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So once it can take a year to build the systems depending on what you're working with and what you're willing to invest in terms of time and energy. But once you have that in place, now you can really begin to take your business to the next level, whatever that looks like for you. Does that mean that you now are targeting higher price properties? Does this mean you give more concierge level service? Does this mean you want to do more deals and literally more volume? So whatever those goals are for you, you and your admin can design what does that look like. So now you can get repetition. Mm-hmm. Now you can get consistency.
Right. Okay. So now let's transition. So we've got the agent who's had the assistant now for a while, and the assistant's been in coaching. Have you seen a point in time in your coaching space where you have heard from a team leader and says, okay, Kathleen, great job with Betty Sue or Bob Smith. We want them to now start to build out their own administrative team.
Yes.
And then do you coach that individual then to help build out that administrative team?
Yes. And so we have two levels of skill here. First is, so I designed my 90 Days to Thrive onboarding program so that when agents bring on new admin, they have a partner in me and my team to make the transition as successful as it can be. It's the most difficult in the first 90 days. It is the most difficult for highly skilled, highly successful admin to make this change because they are not accustomed to saying, I don't know, will you help me? And I don't understand. That is very uncomfortable for them because admin pride themselves on being the go-to person for answers and solutions.
Right.
But they have to go on this very steep learning curve. So once you have worked through that, now your admin's going to have to do that with the next admin. So this is another reason why Vanessa and I put together the Hire Lab training course on how to hire, because admin often have never been trained on how to hire.
Very true.
So they don't know how to write a job description, post a job ad, review resumes, phone interview, set up an interview that's structured, give feedback. They don't know how to do this. So these are skills that as recruiters, right? I mean, you and I've been doing this a long time. And, and I learned from being taught, you know, in corporate world. Then I had my own recruiting company twice in my life so far. I won't say that might be over yet. Might have another one someday, who knows? And so, and I've interviewed 12, 15 people a day, days on end. I was a college recruiter. So, I mean, I have interviewed thousands probably of people. So they need to know how to do that and then how to evaluate talent. And depending on the business maturity of your admin, they also have to not be threatened.
Very true.
They also have to understand where this fits into their own growth. And entrepreneurs, right, we're used to seeing the goal, seeing one stepping stone in front of us, maybe two. And then we know if we leap out into the space, it's going to work out. But that is not usually the way admin are wired.
No.
So
we're okay to leave some dead bodies behind us. Admin are not like that, right?
No. So that's where working with a coach and having what's the organizational chart, what's the budget, what's the plan, how do the job descriptions separate, where am I going if I'm giving up these duties? I mean, I've worked with admin who are getting to hire their first virtual assistant, and they're even like, well, they're kind of control freaks, right? Like that's why you want them. So they need to be able to know, how am I going to know that these things are getting done for you if I'm not doing them myself?
Right.
So that is also a learning process. And then set up, well, what's the transparency and what's the accountability in the system that we've designed in the business, so the leader knows what's happening. Now the lead admin knows. Now that admin knows what the other admin are doing, and that can all be designed. Absolutely.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Wow. All I have to say is, wow. Where have you been all my life? That's all I have to say.
Where have you been?
I'm so glad we met. So glad that we came together here. I've got a page and a half here of notes. This is so good. So let's do this, Kathleen. As we are winding down here, how can people come find you? How can they send their admins to you? What can they do to help get in the space of having you all help go find admin and then you coach the admin? How do they find you?
So KathleenMetcalf.com is my website. On Facebook, I'm the Real Estate Team Development Group. And so people can ask to join, and that's free support. And so, and to find Pro REA Staffing, that's their website to be able to look at how can they help you find your next admin. And Hire Lab, HIRE-LAB lab.com is our training course for how to hire. Because even if you use a recruiting firm, you still have to interview.
Sure.
You still have to make a hiring decision. Even if a recruiting firm hands you candidates on a silver platter, you still have to know, what are you looking for? How are you making that decision?
Love it.
And then it's okay to not know how to onboard and train an admin, because agents aren't admin. If they've been an admin before, okay, you have an advantage, but you're still more valuable making deals.
Very true. Yeah, that's their job, right? Their job is to generate revenue, right? And the admin's job is to make sure that they stay out generating more revenue.
Correct. So we need you out front doing what you do. And then, you know, the admin staff will be back there processing whatever you bring in.
So good, Kathleen. So KathleenMetcalf.com. You've got hire-lab.com. The Facebook group is The Real Estate Team Development. Everybody who is listening right now, I want you to stop this and I want you to start it over. And I want you to listen to it again because this has been extremely valuable information. Your hire, your next hire, you're a hire away from your first $1 million, or you're a hire away from your next $1 million.
Yes.
I believe that to be true, 100%. Well, Kathleen, thank you for your time. This has been incredibly valuable, and I look forward to working together with you.
Me too. Very much so. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Adam.
My pleasure. Everybody, this has been the I Love Recruiting podcast. My name is Adam Roach. I am your host. And oh, by the way, go check out iloverecruiting.com. We have an event coming up a week from this coming Thursday. I am going to be hosting a webinar all about how to recruit producing agents every single month. It's going to be a quick 15-20 minute webinar. You do not want to miss this. So go to iloverecruiting.com and sign up today. See you all. Take care.